Hey, what's up everybody? Cow Kings here again for another fantastic and exciting video. And in today's video, we're going to be reading some really good Reddit cringe, the Red Pill. It's this from r/the Red Pill. It's a community that's been quarantined, obviously, for highly offensive and shocking content. Now, they claim that it's a discussion of sexual strategy in a culture increasingly lacking a positive identity for men. So, it's kind of weird that they mention that, because if you want a positive identity for men, like you claim, and this was created on October 25th, 2012. So if you want a quote-unquote positive identity for men, then surely some of the most upvoted posts of all time would not be something like this, right? Unless, of course, that's just, a ruse. Well, you asked for it, so here it is. The universe created two types of men, alphas and betas, to serve the purposes of the species, alphas to lead and impregnate and betas to follow and serve. Some science suggests that in ancient times, only 1 out of every 16 men successfully reproduced. Although more betas than this reproduce in modern times due to social order and the institution of marriage, I nevertheless suspect that the 1 in 16 ratio is useful in illustrating a plausible proportion between the two male types today. Assuming some degree of historical constancy with respect to the above dynamic, I see two lessons to take from it. One, if you're an alpha, sex with dozens of women is a likely predictor of this, if not a definition. You're probably in the slim minority. Good job. And two, if you're a beta, you may have your work cut out for you, seeing as alphas are only the top 6% of men. TRP can serve both groups by providing the information necessary for betas to mimic and perhaps eventually become alphas, and for alphas to maximize and streamline their strengths to squeeze the most value out of the sexual marketplace. As a rule, it is the nature of women to use men for protection, resources, and in the case of her interaction with alpha males, reproduction. This is due in large part to the physical vulnerabilities. Manipulation is an imperfect word to use to describe this mechanism because it presupposes a degree of maliciousness or intentional deception, but it's useful in that it reminds us of how tricky women instinctively are with respect to the value they advertise versus what they provide in an interaction pattern not deliberately calibrated by a more manipulative, intelligent, and self-interested male. Arthur Schopenhauer described the innate modus operandi of women in these words. With girls, nature has had in view what is called in a dramatic sense a striking effect, for she endows them for a few years with a richness of beauty and a fullness of charm at the expense of the rest of their lives, so that they may, during these years, ensnare the fantasy of a man to such a degree as to make him rush into taking the honorable care of them, in some kind of form, for a lifetime, a step which would not seem sufficiently justified if you only considered the matter. Because women are more dependent on men for survival than vice versa, they have collectively developed a compensatory characteristic which allows them to extract value from beta males in ways that are not mutually beneficial. This is manifest in an automatic and brilliant instinct for interpersonal negotiation, where she will constantly test the nature of the relationship in the hopes of extracting more value from a man while reducing the value she must provide to him. The classic example of this is the cheating housewife that, if we're all honest, don't blame once we see how beta the husband is, and because sexual strategy is immoral anyway. Women in this respect are instinctively significantly better at sexual strategy than men are. Therefore, we know our own compensatory characteristic, the subreddit. So let's go over a few things before we continue on with some of this in regards to him. So, as always, if you're going to write something and make such big bold claims, I'd recommend that you cite your sources. You can't just throw stuff out. Now, when you say some science suggests, What's science? How much of it? Is it a small minority? Is this peer-reviewed? Do you even know what the scientific method is? I doubt it. You mentioned alpha and betas, but I can't help but feel like that perhaps you are a beta by the way you're describing stuff. I often see that these are broken, damaged men who come to these forums, who had a really bad breakup or really bad divorce, and they never got over it. And they carried that pain with them, and it clouds their judgments. I also want to note that he claims that by being an alpha, it means to have sex with dozens of women, that's a likely predictor of being an alpha. And he also says, good job. But the problem with this is, by the same hypocritical stance, you and many of your red pill cringy brethren would go so far as to say that women who have sex with multiple men are sluts and shame them for their quote-unquote body count. By that same token, I must ask, if women are sluts for having sex with men, then why would you inherently say that you should have sex with as many women as possible? Are you not just another guy to add to that whore's body count? And if they're such sluts and whores, what does that say about you for being so desperate to sleep with them? You want a high-quality woman, but you do not act like a high-quality man. Also, is this cherry-picking evidence relating to evolutionary psychology, in which many of these people have never had a psychology class formally or informally in any manner. They just state stuff that they believe to be true. If a woman is dating a man, yes, I believe there is some limit, there is some degree that they will date for protection, for resources, especially in a traditional sense. But just as in a man is looking for certain things, this varies from person to person. You will find some common ground often, but this is no longer the 50s, 60s, or 70s. We have many different things like stay-at-home dads now. Personally, I know a couple of friends who are stay-at-home fathers, and this is a perfect role for them, and the woman is the breadwinner. My partner, for example, is the breadwinner of our relationship, and I often end up staying at home making my videos and cleaning around the house. What I find that you're doing is you're projecting a lot. Your own problems, your own experiences with women, you are assuming to be the norm for everybody else, and you are making these huge sweeping general statements with no evidence to back it up. It's also ironic how you mention that that by manipulating there is a presupposition of maliciousness or intentional deception. But then that flies right over your head, and then you go ahead and still say, well, we have to be more manipulative, intelligent, and self-interested. By the way, forgive me, that's my cat in the background if you hear her, and she's rubbing up against the microphone. But, yeah, you're literally telling men to be damaged and broken and to be manipulative. So already, that's not good. The question I have for people like this who read these types of garbage posts is, are these really the type of men that you want to take advice from? Do they seem like they've had healthy relationships in the past? And do they seem like they have healthy relationships now? Because what it sounds like is you're telling people to be a piece of shit. And maybe you'll you downright say manipulate women into sleeping with you. But once they catch on to what a narcissistic son of a bitch you're being, and on purpose at that, which is weird, they're going to leave you. Also, you victim blame, which is really interesting how you say, well, if a man is a beta, then if we're all honest, which is a stupid statement, you say, we don't blame the beta husband for the infidelity. Which there's a lot to unpack there. No, it's not that we're all honest. That's just how you feel. You're projecting again. What you believe and what you feel, you're assuming to be the case for everybody else. Which is really cringy, by the way. And secondly, marriage, especially cheating, has no excuse. It doesn't matter if you think they're a beta or not. There are many ways to handle this. A separation, a divorce, an honest conversation with them, an open relationship if you even have to. But not cheating. That is deception. It is lying. Let's move on with the cringe fest. Much chatter in the Manosphere regarding the unpleasant nature of women is only accurate when describing the interaction patterns of women with men who haven't learned female nature and how to consciously manipulate it so as to tip the balance of power in his favor. To quote from a second and superior German philosopher, the true man wants two things, danger and play. For that reason he wants woman as the most dangerous plaything. Dangerous playthings require skills to enjoy without getting cut or burned. Let's discuss a couple of them here. Well, we have objectifying language, of course, talking out women as playthings instead of as an equal. It's weird how you desire women and yet you talk so lowly of them. Can you explain that to me? It seems like there's a lot of work that needs to be done. I know you're very damaged, as many of these men are, and instead of admitting that you should work on yourself, you have blamed everybody else. So I ask you the question, which is more likely? You've had bad relationships, like anybody else has had in the past, or women as a whole, every single one of them, are all playthings meant to be objectified and are evil and damaged and bad, and there's no way anybody can be happy in a relationship without manipulation. Do you really believe that? So let's see what Sir Adonis here says on his tips. Number 1, develop and/or mimic a sex-satisfied, not a sex-desiring, mental disposition. Women don't consciously agree with this, but their psychological firmware nevertheless insists on being attracted to men. Again, quit bringing in psychology. You know nothing about psychology. Who are already getting laid. This is a very primal form of pre-selection as our mind conducts this subconscious logical syllogism. I don't know whether this man is fit for reproduction, but the fact that there are signs that he may be already getting laid, he's not desperate, he's barely trying. He's already happy and cheerful, which suggests that other women have already made the assessment that he is. There are two differing and mutually compatible ways of cultivating the sex-satisfied state, abundance mentality. One is to actually induce it by having sex with women regularly, going as low on the SMV totem pole as is needed to get laid. The other is to mimic it by artificially altering your behavior and demeanor to match the patterns of someone who is getting laid. There is no shame in this. Just avoid like the plague any behavior that she could identify as needy, desperate, or sexually frustrated. This requires you to constantly watch yourself, which is exhausting, so I don't recommend adopting this second technique exclusively. Again, you state right there that this whole pattern of behavior is exhausting to do, and yet you're encouraging people to do it. You're also saying to lower your standards so low just to make sure you get laid. Okay, well here's the problem, right? If you're women often will speak amongst each other and word gets around fast. So if you're the neighborhood douchebag and you're sleeping with all our mutual friends, Becky, Lizzie, and Susan, then eventually word's going to get around and none of these women are going to want to have anything to do with you. Also, this is really sexually irresponsible behavior to constantly sleep around with people. That's how STDs are transmitted, brother. Don't you know anything about that? Hurst illustrated this point well when he said, paraphrased, "When you don't know what to say to a woman, imagine that you're already lying in bed with two of them. There's a lot to be gained by haggling your way down in the sexual marketplace just so you can be getting laid regularly. I am open to the idea that other male personality types might prefer to not have sex at all than to have sex with a low SMV female, and SMV meaning sexual market value. But I would argue that that preference is born of low testosterone or an over-reliance on masturbation and pornography. There appear to be two camps in TRP. One says, fuck women, and the other says, fuck women. I am of the latter. You are a beta cuck. You are such a cuck, you don't even see it. You are so full of shit, brother. I gotta be real with you. You are so deep down the rabbit hole. You're telling me to fuck nasty, ugly bitches? You are disgusting, dude. What are you saying? You're literally saying to tell me to do that, right? Because if I don't have low testosterone or an over-reliance on masturbation. Let me tell you something. Masturbation is such a great thing, right? Because you have two minds. I don't want to think with my dick and end up sleep. You know, one of those cartoons where you sleep with that fat fucking 700-pound bitch who's got crabs, chlamydia, herpes, and everything else that's life-changing. All because I couldn't control what my willy was doing, right? Why are you encouraging people to engage in stupid, dangerous acts? I didn't even think. Look, here's the problem. Sometimes I hear stupid shit that's so dumb. It's like I would have to actively try to be that stupid. Like I would have to make an attempt, a real effort to be this dumb. But he just does it flawlessly. And I don't know if you read over this or not and just thought, well, this is brilliant. But usually when you type shit out, you have more time to think about stuff, right? You have more time to really let it sink in because it has to go through multiple filters when you're typing out and then you're rereading it, proofreading it, and then publishing it. And nowhere along the lines did he think, man, I don't know about all this. And right there you say, the Manosphere is all about fuck women. So again, what kind of crowd are you really surrounding yourself with? It seems like it's just this weird cult, right? Where anytime you speak out against the norm, they tend to all bash on you and say, what a cuck you are, what a faggot you are, you sound like a woman, what are you, a feminazi? It's like they don't actually care about arguments based on rationale, it's arguments based on emotion. I'm hurt, all these other men are hurt, let's all be hurt together. It's never about getting better, it's about getting bitter with these cucks. So good God, we're just on to the second point now. Here we go. What does he offer us on this one? Treat her, number 2, treat her as if she was born to serve you. Can we get a yikes for that one? The most attractive combination of psychological traits in a man are narcissists of Manhattan and happiness. The latter has some overlap with our discussion about sex satiety, but the former is separate. Narcissism, for our purposes here, is delusional self-confidence and reckless self-interest. It's the characteristic of a man who has massive double standards regarding himself versus the women he dates, and he knows it, and he laughs when he's called out on it. Not just being a fucking douchebag and an abuser, bro. Developing a specific, strategically deployable form of narcissism with respect to the opposite sex is tricky, and every man will integrate this property into their existing social personality differently. But one trick I found useful is to use a sort of affirmation or article of faith to undo and rewire the beta programming the mind uses when interacting with women. An anonymous comment in the Manosphere once described it this way: act like you are the star of the #1 reality show of all time. Cameras following you around and millions watching it because you are so damn interesting. You're just going to come across as a cocky douchebag to everybody else, and I hope you know that. In short, brainwash yourself into believing that you're a god. Eventually, you may learn that this lie is actually true. Or, you may be so far up your own ass that when you actually make flaws, you prevent yourself from becoming a better person, an actual likable person that women desire, instead of having to trick them for a short-term sexual gratitude, only then keep losing woman after woman, and by the time you're in your 40s and 50s, and you're no longer Giga Chad, you ask yourself, why am I alone in this bed? And you have nobody around you, no wife, no kids, no nothing on your deathbed, and you sit there wondering to yourself, why did I ever do this? Maybe that. Fucking idiot. What a scumbag. Learned narcissism mirrors pre-selection closely. In pre-selection, a woman doesn't have enough information to know whether you are fit for reproduction, so she uses the judgments of other women to make that evaluation. Again, if you're the douchebag and every other woman has, the word goes around that you're sleeping with all these women, you're breaking their hearts. I think you just said it yourself. They're not going to want to be with you, bro. They're going to steer real clear of you because you're really advertising your red flags. Woman comes across this and reads this shit and she's like, yikes. I'm just saying, brother. With narcissism and delusional self-confidence, a woman doesn't have enough information to know whether you are fit for reproduction, so she uses the judgment that you have made about yourself to make that evaluation. I assume it goes without saying that a woman isn't consciously considering you as a reproductive mate when she's discovering whether she wants to fuck you. This is also a conscious psychological phenomena that she herself has no direct awareness of. All she consciously experiences is a desire to fuck you. While betas exist to serve women, women exist to serve alphas. Sometimes this dynamic is subtle. Other times women will explicitly enjoy being or feeling used up by their alpha male partners. Treat her a little bit like she exists to serve you, to establish the desired alpha to female relationship pattern. See, the problem with this type of thinking is it comes from one mindset. And let's assume this is all true, okay? Let's assume that this is just absolutely, this is gospel. Then what of bisexuals, right? Male-to-male relationships, female and female relationships, non-binary relationships. You get what I'm saying? Does this work for all of that? Are females, if they're dating each other, supposed to try to dominate each other? And if men are dating each other, they're supposed to dominate each other? What about a polyamorous relationship where it's 3 or more people? Who dominates who? Who serves who? This problem with the red pill community is they try to make everything so simplistic and try to boil down the complex issue of a relationship down to just be a douchebag, bro. Just get some pussy, man. You're projecting so hard throughout this. Like, where's the evidence that you have for any of this shit? All right. Let's move on to number 3. Ignore anything and everything she says that you would have preferred she didn't say. Okay. The most efficient and benevolent method of extracting the desired value out of the interactions you have with females is to punish and reward her by giving and withdrawing your attention. Counterintuitively, ignoring a woman when she acts or speaks in an undesired way is more effective in disincentivizing than is confronting her verbally or even using physical violence. This is because ignoring a woman communicates a greater readiness to withdraw from her permanently. This demonstrates value and instills insecurity in her, whereas verbal confrontation communicates to her that she is his only option and that he's more inclined to try to control her than he is to merely gravitate away from negativity and undesired behavior in the direction of other females from whom he knows he can procure a preferable relationship. So again, what these douchebags do is they try to use big words and they try to use buzzwords, keywords, and big words to try to make their point sound like they're really intelligent, like they really have some meaning. But really, if we break it down, what he's saying is, it's a good thing to be a douchebag. Don't communicate with your woman. Don't talk things out. Ignore her like you're a fucking kid because you didn't get your way and she said something you don't like and it hurt your fifis. So that's really what he's saying here. If a girl you're interacting with asks an unwanted question or makes an unwanted statement, flatly ignore it. I'm not suggesting that you fold your arms like a frustrated kid. Yes, you are. And give her the silent treatment. Yes, you are. I am suggesting that you literally act exactly as if she had not said it at all. This is frame reaffirmation. It's the most effective and efficient way of dealing with her bullshit, and especially preferable to verbal confrontation if either of you are prone to the slippery slope of escalating negative emotions. There is a recurring and compelling sentiment here that the sexual marketplace is a zero-sum game. I believe this is only the case when men fail to learn how to calibrate male-to-female interaction patterns to satisfy the self-interested nature of the male and the alpha-pleasing instincts of the female. Instead of the self-interested nature of the female, and the female policing instincts of the male. Well, good God, no wonder this Reddit got shadow banned. Let's go ahead and check out some of the comments, shall we? So we're going to go ahead and scroll down. TLDR, don't be thirsty. Be dominant and self-confident. Maintain an unshakable frame. Spot on. Okay. If you can't handle someone saying something you don't like, then you're pretty shakeable. Yep, that's absolutely true. I get the same feeling. I bet over 20 women. 35% of them have been ugly and low value. My stomach turns when I think of them. Absolutely. Absolutely, right? Don't do shit you're going to regret later. Here's one from Sweet Magwills. Everyone who has had several sexual partners regrets some of them, even if none of them were ugly. But it's not just about sexual interactions. It's all actions in life. Sometimes you have to accept that the choices you justified at that moment maybe wasn't that good. But you either learn from it and avoid the same mistakes in the future, or learn to accept that all choices we make are good ones. It's human to make mistakes. I myself have a habit of sleeping with crazy... ... Here's another comment. I'm split on this. When I was younger and my S&V was lower, I fucked some low-value chicks, but I'm not disgusted by it. Now that I get genuine hotties, no you don't. I can't ever go back, though. Perhaps it's just a subconscious thing where your brain tries to keep you from punching below your weight. Should I fuck the same girls now? I would be mortified, I think. Apologies, I just got a Discord call, so I had to go check on that. Well, there's a lot of comments, but look at that. Those are rookie numbers. Got to pump those numbers up. Once you hit 100, you will only remember the good ones. And just more and more and more. God, it's just kind of weird. Here's one. 3 is important with virtually all females. These females say the most illogical things, complain / whine about everything, and make their problems and your problems. Overanalyzing and think about what they said / can drive you crazy. Accepting you can be happy with her or happy without her. Gives you some self-comfort, which makes ignoring all the BS easier. I don't know how this receives so many upvotes. Yeah, right here. Dark triad, bro. Gotta get that narcissism. Yeah, guaranteed this dude had, that whole saying about this what zero pussy does a motherfucker. These guys are just like the incels. Only they pretend that they get women. And even if you get women, it's like you don't keep them by any means. You become a laughing stock and women talk shit about you. And then you end up damaging women, and then you wonder why, you're only getting the low-value women and why the high-value women end up leaving your ass, and only stay short-term until they find out what a piece of shit you are. So, this has been a Reddit cringe. One of the most upvoted posts in r/the red pill, if you believe that. Wow.